Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been with a woman who, without hesitation, put herself on the line for you? Not out of fear, not out of duty, but because something deep in her heart told her you were worth it. There's something rare, almost magnetic, about a man who inspires that kind of devotion. It's not about looks, money, or status. It's about the way you make her feel safe enough to be vulnerable, but challenged enough to stay intrigued. It's about how you stand in your own truth so strongly that she knows following you isn't a risk, it's a calling. Most men think winning a woman's heart is about doing more, giving more, proving more. But the truth is, women risk everything for the man who does one simple, profound thing, and it's not what you think. It's something far more human, far more intimate, and once you understand it, you will never see your relationships the same way again. So today we're going to unravel that mystery together, not through tricks or games, but by exploring the deep psychology and emotional currents that make a woman say, "I would go anywhere with him." Let me ask you something. Have you ever been with a woman who, without hesitation, put herself on the line for you? Not out of fear, not out of duty, but because something deep in her heart told her you were worth it. There's something rare, almost magnetic, about a man who inspires that kind of devotion. It's not about looks, money, or status. It's about the way you make her feel safe enough to be vulnerable, but challenged enough to stay intrigued. It's about how you stand in your own truth so strongly that she knows following you isn't a risk, it's a calling. Most men think winning a woman's heart is about doing more, giving more, proving more. But the truth is, women risk everything for the man who does one simple, profound thing. And it's not what you think. It's something far more human, far more intimate. And once you understand it, you will never see your relationships the same way again. You see, women don't risk themselves for men who need them to. They do it for the man who could stand without them, but chooses not to. A man who is rooted in his own sense of self, who doesn't collapse into her approval or crumble under her disapproval. This is not about arrogance. This is about presence, about being anchored enough in who you are that she can lean on you without feeling like she has to carry you. Picture this: you're standing on a busy street corner with her, the world rushing around you. She tells you something difficult, something vulnerable. Instead of rushing to fix it, you just hold the space. You don't fidget. You don't turn it into a joke. You look at her, really look at her, and she feels the weight of your attention. In that moment, you've communicated something more powerful than any gift or grand gesture. I can handle you. I can handle your truth. That's where it begins. Because for a woman to risk everything for you, she must first believe that you can hold her without breaking. This is the foundation. And yet, so many men sabotage it by trying to earn her loyalty through overcompensation, buying, pleasing, bending, until she can't feel his backbone anymore. Women are exquisitely sensitive to a man's center of gravity. If she senses that you are pulled too easily off balance by her moods, her tests, or her approval, she won't trust you with her deepest self. And without that trust, she won't risk much for you. She may care for you, enjoy you, even stay with you, but she will keep her heart guarded. This is where we talk about emotional containment. Think of it like this: if you're a container, she is the ocean. Her waves can be calm, they can be stormy, but they should never spill you over. She needs to feel that your container is big enough, steady enough for her full range. That doesn't mean you're cold or unfeeling. It means you can meet her highs and lows without drowning in them. Now, here's where the paradox comes in. The very thing that makes her feel safe enough to risk herself with you is also the thing that makes her feel drawn to you. Safety and attraction are often painted as opposites, but in reality, they are deeply intertwined when they're rooted in presence. Because when you are fully present, when you're not lost in distraction, ego, or performance, she feels both seen and desired. And that combination is irresistible. I remember speaking to a woman in her late 40s who told me it wasn't that he had all the answers. It's that he didn't run when I fell apart. That's what made her trust him enough to make sacrifices most people wouldn't even consider. She risked moving across the country for him, leaving her comfort zone because she knew he wouldn't crumble when life inevitably tested them. And let me tell you, life will test you. Every relationship will, not because women are difficult, but because intimacy is demanding. It will pull out your insecurities, your fears, your unhealed parts. The question is not whether those moments will come, but whether you can meet them without losing yourself. The man who inspires a woman to risk everything for him is not the one who promises a life without storms, but the one who shows he can steer through them. He is consistent, even when circumstances are not. He doesn't need her chaos to prove his calm, and he doesn't need her constant reassurance to feel steady. When you embody this, something shifts in her. She starts to imagine a life where she can rest into you, not because you carry her, but because you walk beside her without wavering. That's when she'll take risks, big ones. Risks that require trust, not just in you as a partner, but in you as a man. And here's the truth most people don't say out loud. Women are constantly scanning for signs of whether a man can handle the weight of real life. She might adore your charm, your ambition, your sense of humor, but if she doesn't believe you can weather the storms, she will never hand you the keys to her full loyalty. So before you ask a woman to risk everything for you, ask yourself, do I show up in a way that makes her believe I can hold her, even in her most unguarded moments? Am I consistent when it's inconvenient? Do I stay grounded when she is not? Because if the answer is no, that's where you begin. Not with trying to make her leap, but with building the ground beneath your own feet. And when you do, when you truly embody this steadiness, you won't have to convince her to risk for you. She will do it naturally, instinctively, because she feels something in you that is rare, something she knows she may never find again. When a woman feels that steadiness in you, her body reacts before her mind can even put words to it. She starts to breathe differently around you. She allows herself to exhale in your presence. And here's the secret most men miss. Those little, almost imperceptible shifts are where loyalty begins. Loyalty isn't built in grand, cinematic moments. It's built in the quiet micro moments where she feels, I am safe to be me here, and yet safety alone is not enough. If it were, she could just find a therapist, a best friend, or a quiet cabin in the woods. The devotion that makes a woman risk everything for you requires something more. It requires that spark. The aliveness that makes her want to choose you again and again, even when she doesn't have to. This is where we talk about polarity. You see, in healthy relationships, safety is the foundation, but desire is the fire. And the fire thrives on contrast. It's not about being unpredictable for the sake of drama, but about maintaining that dynamic tension between comfort and mystery. When you are grounded, yet still carry an edge, when you can be deeply attentive but not entirely predictable, you awaken a part of her that longs to be surprised, to be pursued, to be inspired. Too many men mistake stability for sameness, and sameness slowly erodes attraction. She might still feel connected, but she won't feel compelled, and no one risks everything for someone who feels replaceable. Think about it. If you're always available, always agreeable, always doing exactly what she expects, you become a known quantity. And while being known is beautiful for intimacy, it can be deadly for desire. A woman who risks everything for you doesn't do it because you've made her comfortable. She does it because you've made her feel alive. Now, let me be clear. This is not about playing games or withholding love. It's about maintaining your own sense of adventure, your own purpose, your own life force, so that you're not orbiting entirely around her. Because the man who loses himself in her world loses the very thing that made her want to step into his. I've spoken to women who left secure, predictable relationships to be with men who, on paper, offered far less security. Why? Because those men carried a presence that made them feel more awake, more in touch with their own vitality. These women weren't chasing instability. They were chasing that balance of groundedness and spark that so few men can sustain. So how do you hold both? You do it by refusing to collapse into comfort. You let her feel your commitment without ever making her feel like she's figured you out entirely. You keep learning, growing, trying new things, not to prove anything to her, but to stay in touch with your own edges. A man who inspires devotion never abandons himself. And this is important. Abandoning yourself doesn't always look like sacrifice. Sometimes it looks like slowly giving up the hobbies you loved, the friends you cherished, the challenges that made you feel alive. You tell yourself it's because you're prioritizing the relationship, but what she experiences is the slow fading of the man she fell for. She risks everything for the man who, even while loving her deeply, continues to live a life that challenges him. Because when she sees you challenging yourself, pushing your limits, staying curious, taking risks in your own world, it reminds her that you can handle the challenges of hers. And here's the part many men overlook. She doesn't just want to feel safe with you. She wants to be impressed by you, not in the flashy, ego-driven way, but in the quiet, undeniable way where she looks at you and thinks, he is a man I admire. Admiration is the bridge between attraction and devotion. Without it, even the strongest feelings can fade. Admiration grows when you have integrity. Integrity is not about never making mistakes. It's about staying true to your word and your values, even when it's hard. When you say you'll do something, you do it. When you make a promise, you keep it. Not because she's watching, but because that's who you are. Women notice this. They notice when you follow through. They notice when you show up, even when you'd rather not. They notice when you hold your boundaries instead of folding to keep the peace. And every time you do, you become a man she can bet on. One woman told me, the moment I knew I could risk it all for him was when I saw him turn down an opportunity that would have compromised his values, even though it would have made him a lot of money. She didn't love him more because of the sacrifice. She loved him more because he showed her that his compass couldn't be bought. This is the thing. When you have integrity, you give her something priceless: predictability in your principles, even if not in your actions. She may not always know what you'll do, but she knows why you'll do it. And that is the kind of knowing that allows her to take the leap. But integrity alone, like safety alone, is not enough. Remember, she needs to feel alive with you. And aliveness requires engagement. It requires that you don't just stand there solid and admirable, but that you engage with her in a way that keeps her heart racing. Play with her, tease her, challenge her ideas. Show her that you see her not just as your partner, but as a woman you still desire. Because here's the truth. Desire is not something you set and forget. It's something you feed. And when a woman feels both deeply secure and deeply desired, she will cross oceans for you. Not because she's dependent on you, but because being with you feels like the most exhilarating, grounding place she could be. So if you're listening to this and wondering where to start here. Be the man who holds her without needing to be held up by her. Be the man who continues to grow so she can keep discovering new parts of you. Be the man whose integrity she can bet on and whose presence she still can't fully predict. When you do that, she doesn't just choose you, she invests in you. And when a woman invests in you with her whole self, she doesn't count the cost. She knows the risk and she takes it anyway. There is something you need to understand about women, something that's not cynical but profoundly human. Trust is not given once, it's renewed constantly. She may love you, she may even believe in you, but she will still, often without realizing it, be scanning for proof that the man she chose is still the man she can risk herself for. These are not always deliberate tests. Sometimes they're simply moments where life reveals your depth or your lack of it. When she's upset and you meet her anger with defensiveness, she learns something. When she's scared and you meet her fear with patience, she learns something else. Every interaction is a data point, and over time, those data points become a pattern. That pattern decides whether she leans in or pulls back. Now here's where men often get it wrong. They think these moments are about passing or failing some secret quiz she's designed. But in reality, they're about something much simpler. She's looking to see if you can be with her in the hard moments without making it about you. It's easy to be present when she's happy, affectionate, laughing at your jokes. It's much harder when she's in pain, when her emotions feel messy, when her needs are inconvenient. But those are the moments that define you in her eyes. If she feels that you can't handle her complexity, she will withhold her depth from you. And when she withholds her depth, her devotion begins to fade. Think about this. Imagine you're in an argument. She's emotional, maybe even unfair in the moment. Most men rush to correct her, to prove their point, to defend their side. But the man who can pause, breathe, and stay curious instead of combative, that man communicates something she can't ignore. I am more committed to understanding you than to winning over you. That doesn't mean you let yourself be disrespected. It means you hold your ground without making the ground shake. You can say, I hear you're upset and I want to understand, but I'm not going to engage in yelling. Let's talk when we can both listen. That's not weakness, that's leadership. And leadership in love is deeply attractive. Because here's the truth. When she sees you hold your center in the heat of conflict, it reassures her that you can hold your center in the heat of life. And that's the man she will risk herself for. But this trust is also built in the quieter moments, when you remember the small details she told you weeks ago, when you check in not because she asked, but because you noticed. These are the moments where she feels he's paying attention. I matter to him, even when I'm not demanding it. Women fall in love with how you make them feel when the world is looking. But they stay in love and risk for you based on how you make them feel when no one is watching. Now, let's talk about something that's harder for many men: vulnerability. You might think that showing your struggles will make her doubt you, that it will make you seem weak. But vulnerability, when grounded in self-awareness, is one of the most powerful connectors you have. The key is in how you bring it. If your vulnerability comes as a cry for her to rescue you, it will erode her trust in your strength. But if it comes as a window into your truth, shared without dumping it on her shoulders, it will deepen her connection to you. She doesn't need you to be perfect. She needs you to be real. There's a difference between saying, I'm struggling and I don't know what to do. Please fix it for me. And saying, I've been having a hard week and I'm working through it, but I wanted you to know because you matter to me. One makes her your caretaker. The other makes her your confidant. And women risk more for men who trust them enough to be seen, but not so much that they must hold him together. That's the balance, strength and softness. The ability to let her in without leaning so hard she collapses under your weight. Because when she can feel both your solidity and your humanity, she will trust that you can navigate not only her storms, but your own. And here's the beautiful part: when you lead with this kind of presence, when you meet her tests not with defensiveness, but with grounded clarity, you actually change the dynamic between you. She no longer has to test you because she already knows who you are. The relationship shifts from her needing reassurance to her wanting to build with you. At that point, the risk becomes hers in a way she embraces. She risks vulnerability because you've shown you won't weaponize it. She risks trust because you've shown you won't betray it. She risks loyalty because you've shown your worth standing beside. But you can't fake this. Women feel the difference between performance and embodiment. If you try to act grounded without actually doing the inner work, she will sense the gap. And the moment she feels that gap, her instincts will pull her back. That's why this is not about learning lines or strategies. It's about becoming the man who can genuinely offer this kind of presence. A man who doesn't just hold her when it's convenient, but when it's hard. A man who doesn't just listen to her words, but hears the need beneath them. A man who can own his flaws without being owned by them. When you become that man, you don't have to worry about convincing her to risk for you. She will do it naturally, not because you've manipulated her into it, but because every fiber of her being tells her you are the safest and most exciting place she could put her heart. And once she decides that, it's no longer about whether she will risk for you. The only question left is how far she'll go. The truth about long-term devotion is that it's never truly locked in. A woman may decide today that you are worth her trust, her loyalty, even her sacrifices. But devotion is a living, breathing thing. It either grows or it withers, depending on how you nurture it. Too many men think the work ends once she says yes, yes to the date, yes to exclusivity, yes to marriage. But that's not when she decides to risk everything for you. That decision is made and remade in the quiet spaces of daily life. And here's the hard part. The same man who inspires her devotion in the early stages can lose it without even realizing, simply by falling asleep at the wheel. Falling asleep in love doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop attuning. You stop noticing the small shifts in her. You stop creating new shared experiences. You stop expressing desire in ways that remind her she is more than just your partner. She's still your woman. And when that happens, something in her starts to retreat. She may still love you, but love without aliveness becomes obligation. That's why sustaining devotion requires a man to remain awake. Awake to her, yes, but also awake to himself. Because when you keep expanding as a man, when you keep feeding your own growth, you naturally bring freshness into the relationship. You're not the same man she met. You're more. Think about it. You could have the deepest connection in the world, but if you stop bringing new energy, new challenges, new versions of yourself to the table, she will start to feel like she knows exactly how every moment with you will go. Predictability is comforting, but when it becomes the only flavor, it dulls the appetite. One of the biggest misconceptions about long-term relationships is that passion naturally fades over time. It doesn't have to. What fades is attention. In the beginning, you study her like a fascinating book you can't put down. Over time, you assume you've read all the chapters. But people, especially women, are not static. She is evolving every day. And if you stop being curious, you stop seeing her. Curiosity is one of the most powerful tools for sustaining devotion. Ask her questions you've never asked before. Notice the details you've stopped noticing. Create moments that break the routine. It doesn't have to be grand. Sometimes the smallest gestures speak the loudest. A note left where she'll find it. A spontaneous touch in the middle of the day. A genuine, tell me what's been on your mind lately without rushing to fix or judge. And here's the deeper layer. Sustaining her devotion is not about keeping her entertained. It's about keeping her engaged. Engagement is a two-way current. When you share your own growth, your own challenges, your own vulnerabilities, you invite her into a living, evolving partnership. You give her something to risk with you, not just for you. I once worked with a couple where the woman said, I would risk anything for him if I still felt like I was risking it for the man I met. Her husband hadn't done anything wrong. He was still kind, still reliable, still a good man. But he had stopped bringing the qualities that had made her want to follow him in the first place. His hunger for life, his willingness to step into the unknown, his playful unpredictability. He had settled into comfort, and in doing so, he had unknowingly invited her to settle too. Here's what's important to understand. Comfort is not the enemy, but unchecked comfort is the slow erosion of polarity. And polarity, the dance between masculine and feminine energy, is what keeps her feeling drawn to you in a way that transcends logic. Masculine energy, at its core, is direction. It's the ability to hold a vision, to move towards it with intention, to create stability not by standing still, but by moving with purpose. Feminine energy thrives when it feels that direction. It allows her to relax into her flow, knowing you are steering. But if you stop steering, she doesn't just lose attraction. She loses trust in the dynamic that made her feel safe enough to risk for you. This doesn't mean you have to control everything. It means you have to remain in touch with your own purpose, your own goals, your own capacity to lead, not by dominating, but by inspiring. She wants to feel like you're building something, that there's a where in motion, not a where parked in neutral. And here's where the emotional side comes in. Leadership in love is not about knowing all the answers. It's about holding the frame when things are uncertain. If she sees you navigating uncertainty with courage, she will trust you more, even if the outcome isn't perfect. Women risk everything for men who can meet the unknown with presence, because that's where life's biggest risks live. In the unknown. Whether it's starting a business, moving cities, blending families, or simply daring to have the hard conversations, she will step into it with you if she feels you won't crumble under the weight. This is why so many women stay loyal, even when life throws storms at the relationship, not because it's easy, but because the man beside them keeps showing up with both strength and humanity. That combination is rare. That combination makes her think, if I lose him, I lose something I will never find again. So, sustaining devotion isn't about constant romance or avoiding conflict. It's about keeping the qualities alive alive that made her want to risk for you in the first place. And letting those qualities evolve as you both evolve. Be the man who still surprises her, not by becoming someone else, but by revealing more of yourself over time. Be the man who still chooses her, not just in grand gestures, but in the small, daily ways that say, you matter. Be the man whose presence still makes her feel that mix of safety and spark, because when you keep feeding that balance, her risk never feels like a gamble. It feels like the smartest decision she ever made. There's a moment in every great love story where one person realizes they are standing on the edge of something vast, and they step forward anyway. That moment is what we've been talking about all along. It's not about fairy tale romance or reckless abandon. It's about a deep, almost cellular knowing, this is my person. I will risk myself for them. And here's the truth. You cannot manufacture that moment. You can't force it. You can't trick her into it. You can't buy it. You can only become the kind of man who naturally evokes it. By now, you've seen the layers of what that means. It's not just safety, it's safety with spark. It's not just integrity, it's integrity with vitality. It's not just desire, it's desire that evolves as you both grow. And above all, it's presence. Real, grounded, attentive presence. Presence is the thread that runs through it all. It's in the way you hold her gaze when she's telling you the truth, even when it's hard to hear. It's in the way you show up consistently, not just when it's easy or fun. It's in the way you stay rooted in who you are, so she never feels like she has to hold you up in order to lean on you. When a woman feels your presence, not as a performance, but as the essence of who you are, she begins to imagine a life with you that is bigger than her fears. That's when the risk becomes possible. But here's something important. A woman risking everything for you is not the finish line. It's the beginning of a deeper responsibility. Because when someone places that kind of trust in your hands, you have a choice. You can take it for granted, or you can treat it like the rare and fragile gift it is. Too many men think the real work is in winning her. The truth is, the real work is in keeping her, not out of obligation or fear of loss, but because you want to be the kind of man who remains worthy of that devotion every single day. That means never coasting. It means continuing to know her as deeply as you can, not just who she was when you met, but who she is becoming. It means staying committed to your own growth, so that she never feels like she has to choose between loving you and respecting you. It also means letting her risk be met with your own. Because devotion, when it's real, is never one-sided. If she's going to step toward you with her heart wide open, you have to be willing to step toward her with yours. That doesn't mean giving up your boundaries or losing yourself. It means allowing her to see you, really see you, even when it's uncomfortable. Risk for you might not look the same as it does for her. For you, it might mean telling the truth instead of hiding behind what's easy. It might mean holding your ground in moments where you fear losing her. It might mean trusting her enough to let her into the parts of you you've kept locked away. When two people are willing to take those risks for each other, something extraordinary happens. The relationship stops being a transaction and becomes a transformation. You stop asking, what can I get? And start asking, what can we create? And that creation, that's the real prize. Because the woman who risks everything for you is not just giving you her time or her affection. She's giving you her trust, her vulnerability, her belief in a shared future. And if you meet that with your own steady presence, your own fire, your own commitment, the bond you build will be the kind of bond that doesn't just survive life's storms, it thrives because of them. So, if you take nothing else from this conversation, take this. Women do not risk everything for the loudest man in the room, or the richest, or the most charming. They risk for the man whose actions tell her, over and over, I can be trusted with the deepest parts of you, and I will still desire you fiercely. Be that man. Not by copying someone else's style, not by running through a checklist, but by doing the real work of knowing yourself, grounding yourself, and staying awake in your relationships. Because when you become that man, you won't have to ask her to risk for you. She'll feel it in her bones that you are worth it. And she'll step forward, not because she's blind to the danger, but because the danger feels smaller than the possibility of a life without you. And when she does, you will understand something that no book, no video, no advice column can fully prepare you for, that the greatest gift a man can receive is not a woman's love alone, but her willingness to stand beside him when it costs her something. That's not luck. That's not manipulation. That's not a game. That's devotion. And it's the kind of devotion you earn, not once, but every day. So take the risk yourself. Risk being present. Risk being seen. Risk being the kind of man who never stops becoming more of who he is. Because when you do, you will find that the woman who risks everything for you is not doing it out of obligation, but out of the purest kind of choice. The choice to love you, not because she has to, but because she wants to with every part of her being. And that is everything.